welcome to Clifton Worley Show. This week we have Leon Wright with us from Pelican Noiseworks. How's it going, Leon?
It's going good. Good. Just living the dream, as it were, I guess.
Cool. Well, I was just telling you that I just got home from work and just sat down to do some podcasting, and we were just kind of shooting the breeze here a minute. But I I I think today, like, I just kind of want to keep it a little loose, and we'll just kind of I don't know, just kind of hang out a little bit and talk about what's going on in each other's worlds. Um, but obviously, uh, I think it goes without saying, like, anybody who's in the slum or 60 Cycle Hum is very well familiar with you, Leon, and kind of what you do. So I don't think I'm going to spend a long time, introducing, your pedal company. But
I have a pedal company.
you do.
I'm kidding.
There's up to this point, I don't think I ever knew your last name. Like, I just knew you as the Pelican, the guy with the Pelican logo, like, on your Facebook. And
Yeah, I think it's the stuffed animal Pelotar is my
yeah,
thing.
that makes me think that my kids got this, like, for real is the name of the brand, like this toy horse thing recently.
hmm
And that horse, like, it, like, mechanically moves. It's like battery operated and stuff. And,
Oh yeah, I
like,
think I saw something about that.
yeah, it does some creepy stuff, but and it doesn't move like a horse would. But I was thinking that would be an awesome, like, um some kind of graphic.
Yeah, I'll have to look into that. 'Cause, yeah, the wife got into buying, stuffed pelicans or ducks
Hmm.
and horses, and then just like, you know, tearing them apart and sewing them together, and it's creepy. It's creepy for sure, but
That is awesome. I would almost think, like, the Pelican. Um, that's like my neighboring state, Louisiana. I'm in Mississippi, but I'm, like, right on the state line,
Mhm.
and that's like their state bird. I think is the pelican.
Oh, right. I had no idea.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of pelicans. Obviously, it's a kind of a wetland area, but um, so I mean, I could easily said, "Oh man, that dude's like from Louisiana or something," but no, you're all the way up in the Northwest.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever actually seen a pelican in real life.
Oh, really? So they don't have those in the PNW, huh?
Wait, not well, maybe. Not that I've seen.
Not, yeah,
Well, I bet they do. Maybe on the coast.
yeah.
Maybe on the coast.
I have to Google that, I guess.
Yeah, me too.
Well, so how did the Pelican name come up?
That's a strange one, and I don't know that I have a great answer for you. Uh, I started out uh, kind of in the doing music stuff in recording. Uh,
Okay.
I got really into recording, going back, probably 15 years ago or so, and then eventually I kind of built a little recording rig, and then that kind of grew into me building a little two-room small project studio out in my detached garage. Um, and I had always called it. It was called Pelican Row Studio.
Oh, cool.
And the reason for that, I don't really know. I think it was just a joke between friends. Maybe we watched Scarface or something and was laughing about when he's sitting back in his chair smoking a cigar and he says, "Fly, Pelican." Uh, I don't know. That's probably where it came from.
Okay. Okay. Well, yeah, that's something that I wanted to touch on a little bit, and I guess we could go ahead and touch on it now. But now I've heard some music. I got introduced a little bit to some of your music from listening to Vanen's Newton Gear Nerds podcast,
Yeah.
and he had talking about he got the band you're in. A copy of that was he threw some tracks on I think one episode and was playing some of it, and I had no idea up to that point that like that was something you did, and it was really cool. Like now who's in that band with you?
That would be me and Blake from Tone Mob
Okay.
and Justin Porter. Yeah, that's right. Those are three guitar players in the same band.
And that is awesome. That's like
Little bit
Leonard
of
Skinner
mess.
epicness or something.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a mess, but and of course we'll have we use too much gear when we practice, so there's just pedals all over the place and guitars everywhere. But
Yeah. See, I thought that was the case, but I didn't want to speak too soon. But I thought that was Blake and Justin.
yeah,
So you guys are in a band together. Now, what's that band called?
the band's called Anchor Ashore.
Okay.
Yeah, it's really just for fun.
Yeah.
We've never played a show before. we just we recorded one album and we just get together and make music. Really.
How long have you guys been doing that?
Oh, it's probably been. Oh boy, I'm gonna get caught not knowing this. I'd say maybe 8 years, maybe.
Oh wow, that's a really long time to actually kind of stay intact.
Yeah, not that we're not that we're good, but we still can't play together all that well sometimes. Mostly due to the frequency of that we get together.
Okay. So did you grow up in that area? I mean, were these like lifelong
Yeah.
friends?
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
So you got into recording. Was that something like you were doing just for fun or?
Oh yeah, for fun. Yeah, I've never really got paid for a like an audio engineering gig or anything. It was just more doing it for fun. And when we started doing it, it was kind of just right before all the digital audio workstations started becoming popular. Pro Tools and all that stuff in your the on the consumer level.
Mm-hmm.
Before it was starting to get popular there, so we were recording on various hard disk recorders and things like that, and it was just it was really cool to just record some junk that sounded bad and say, whoa, this is me on a CD, or this is my friend's band on a CD.
Yeah.
And it kind of got me into it, and I just kind of kept going on with audio, with just tracking and trying to get good sounds, and eventually got really into mixing and that kind of stuff as well.
Okay. So you built this home studio, kind of with the intent of, was it to record your band or record other people?
Yeah, just to record, friends, record my own stuff. It was a great place to hang out for a while with, all my friends, did music and all that stuff. We would hang out here, almost every Saturday, and whether we had a plan or not, we're going to record something. Let's do it.
Yeah, absolutely. So, tell me a little bit about your setup there, like what you got going on.
Okay, most of it is covered in dust because it hasn't been touched in in a couple years. But in the control room, I have right now a Soundcraft Ghost 32 console.
Okay.
And that is feeding into a Antelope Audio Orion 32 channel converter.
Okay.
And then some various outboard preamps and compressors and that sort of thing. Yeah, nothing too crazy. A couple 500 series items.
So you're recording that into like a digital multi-tracking?
Yes. Yeah. I use I happened upon Cubase. That's what I started with, and they're all the digital audio workstations are pretty much the same now. They're
Yeah.
all do the same thing, so I just stuck with that, even though everybody else uses Pro Tools, and I don't know how to use Pro Tools.
I remember when I was a teenager, you could go, and this was like when I had dial-up internet, and I think I had a Windows 3.1. Uh,
Nice.
you could go to Pro Tools' website, and they had like a free download for like a 8 channel, like one track at a time, uh, software copy you could download on your computer.
Huh,
And
okay.
I thought that was amazing. This was back in the late '90s,
Uh-huh.
and but the problem was, like, the computers back then were so horrid that you couldn't hardly, eke out a recording at that point. Like they were way ahead of the curve, but like the technology was not there with them.
Right. Right. Getting probably a lot of latency and that kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah. But I remember that, just being like enamored by that. And of course, I started out on a Tascam Port Studio,
Oh yeah. Okay.
and I was, in my bedroom with cassette tapes, doing that. And then for Christmas one year, my dad was like, "Hey, here's a Behringer mixer. You probably could get better recordings, like if you, recording through a mixer back into that." And
Hmm.
so I had that and a dynamic microphone. And then when I graduated high school, I I went out to Guitar Center the very next day and got a Yamaha hard disk 16 track recorder. And
Oh,
man, that was
16. Do
like the bomb back then. I mean, I thought,
you
like,
remember the model of that guy?
yeah, it was the AWG 16, I think.
Okay. Yeah, I started out on something very similar to that. I think it was the 2816, I think, something like that.
Okay. Yeah, I mean,
Yes.
back then it had like all the bells and whistles for home recording. Um, and I didn't even. It took me like about 2 months of fiddling with it to even like record something. You know.
Yeah, those things are so hard to use.
Yeah. I mean, the workflow on it, and that's really. I know that the converters and everything have gotten better over time, but
Oh,
like, I definitely, it fell behind the curve, and I got to the point where, like, when I wanted to set up and just like do an acoustic demo or something, it was taking me too long to just set that up. Like, the workflow was,
right.
and so that's when I finally made the decision to just break down and get a Mac. And I was gonna start recording demos again, and then I got into podcasting. So
Mm.
I haven't done much recording.
Well, hey, you're recording right now.
I know, 2 track recording, high fidelity, and no, but yeah, I have a lot of interest there as well. So it's kind of like been the thing where, like, I would get interested in it for a while, and then I would kind of fall behind, and then I'd get interested in it again.
Hmm. Yeah,
But
I had really gotten bit by like there's two camps when you start getting into audio recording debates. You got your in the box guys and then your analog guys.
hmm
I was I was firmly in the like analog camp for a while, for no good reason. Just hey, it's funner to me, to
yeah,
grab a face and move it, and something happens. So that's why I have a console. I don't need it. I'm actually going to be trying to sell it here shortly because I've realized that dream's over. I don't need this big huge thing.
yeah. I I kind of went along that line too, and I'm kind of at the point where I don't have the space or the, you know, um, I'm just kind of want the most simple thing I can get my hands on now. One time, this was like when eBay was like brand new as a teenager, and I don't know why I was doing this kind of stuff, but I actually bought I can't remember the name of the brand. It was similar to like a PV, but it was a 16 channel like analog board, and I bought it off off of eBay, and it was like massive. Like, I think I paid like probably $60 in shipping, something like that. And the thing was like dirt cheap. And like I bought that like as a teenager thinking, oh well, I could run into a recorder or possibly like pick up like a reel to reel or something and record onto that, with a big console. And I mean, that was just, I guess, me trying to chase like what I thought was the cool thing, trying to be
Yep.
like, oh man, that's so retro, I want to be retro. And
Yeah, I know the feeling.
but yeah, I learned that just because it's retro doesn't mean that that's the best way to approach it sometimes.
Right.
But I do have a love and appreciation for that old stuff.
Yeah, and if you got a big mix going on, and you're mixing all analog, if you need to do a mix revision later on, you got to somehow recall all those settings, and that's hours of work.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
To
even
get
yeah,
dB in the vocal or something. Yeah.
like you almost, if you're gonna punch in and like go back, you need to do it right then when you're plugged into that chain,
Mm-hmm.
like, and do it there, like then and there, while everything's set the same.
Yeah.
So, well, so I've seen you do some live streams, and the studio's kind of become like seems like the ground central for Pelican Noiseworks nowadays, right?
Yeah. That's where I do everything is out here. If I did it inside, the wife would have a fit 'cause I'm out testing pedals, at 11 o'clock at night, and solder fumes all over the place. She doesn't want that in the house, so I got to keep it out here.
Yeah, keep it lead free, huh?
Yeah. Well, out here it's all lead out here.
Yeah.
I'll be honest with
Yeah.
you.
Well, tell me, how did you get in? What? Obviously, I mean, I think I know where this is going to go a little bit, but you have this love for gear. But how did you turn it into, I'm going to make pedals?
Well, that was I always kind of tinker around with with stuff, and I had built some some BYOC
Mm-hmm.
pedals and things, and done repairs on pedals and things. And I've always liked guitar gear, and eventually I got to the point when in doing recordings that I realized that it's not about the recording gear you have as much as it is what is that mic picking up. Everything before the mic is the most important.
Mm-hmm.
And so then I started really getting into heavily into guitar gear. Built a few pedals here and there, and then one day it was just kind of a random thought, like, hey, I should like make my own pedal. That'd be pretty cool. And then it spiraled out of control with Blake giving me suggestions and us talking back and forth and joking about it. It ended up becoming the Pelotar. And that was really the first thing I'd ever designed, really, that ever got put together anyway.
Yeah. So was Blake dabble in that as well?
No. Well, he's an idea man.
Okay.
He's an idea man. But actually, when I first made the first few Pelotars, I gave him the option. I'm like, hey, do you want me to put you together a kit and you can build it yourself, or do you want me to build it for you? And he's like, yeah, I want to do it myself. That'd be cool. And so I, put all the parts in little bags and labeled them for him and made, laid it all out, gave him instructions. And then like 3 months went by and he still doesn't have one. I'm like, come on, man. All right. I went over to his house, took all the stuff back. Made him one. All right, now you have one. There you go.
That's awesome. So how did so you had the studio called Pelican Row, but how did the Pelotar, I mean, how did that come together? What, the mashup between us, was that a Centaur?
Yeah, well, I was trying to think of something funny, a fun way to make it look like it was a Centaur uh, clone,
Hmm.
but make it just a little bit dumb. And yeah, I don't. There was probably better ideas that came up, but that's the one. That's the one I landed on because I just thought it was hilarious to have a bird with a horse's head on it. A horse with a bird head, like okay, I can visualize that, but then the a horse head on a bird just it blew my mind. I had to see it.
Yeah. So did your wife like at that point make up the mashup between
No, that was actually much later. That was maybe the beginning of this year.
okay.
No, yeah, maybe the beginning of this year. I think is when she started making those. Which that actually started with Ryan Burke. He had just randomly sent me he did a mock-up in Photoshop because he's a wizard with that kind
Yeah.
of stuff. Said, "Hey, you should make stuffed animals. This thing's pretty cute." And he sent me a picture. And I'm like, "Oh, this is awesome. How can we do this?" And my wife's like, "Oh yeah, I got that. All right." It's kind
That's
of just a
awesome. You,
fun little thing.
yeah. It'd be awesome to mass produce those like in be part of the package or something. Um so how long ago was that you kind of made that design up?
Yeah, let's see. The Pelotar was launched on April 1st of 2016.
Okay. On
So it's
April
been.
Fools.
Yep, yep, and it was yeah, that was pretty fun in itself. Pretty fun launch because most people thought it was a complete joke,
Hmm.
and the real joke came on April 2nd when it was still there.
Yeah. Yeah, that's amazing. So like how did that work? Did you just kind of place that out there in the groups and like take pre-orders or
No, just started blasting it out on Instagram, and I can't remember. Maybe in the groups too. I don't remember.
okay.
If, I don't know that I was very active in the groups around that time. Perhaps I was. I don't know. Uh, yeah, it was mostly just like Instagram, and it got spread around because people were like, "What? What is this?"
Yeah. That's awesome. Well, I played Kevin Equitz's guitar with that like and I guess we're segueing into this now, but that had the half of
Yeah, yeah,
the Pelotar in the circuit,
yeah, yeah,
and absolutely loved playing that. Like it was it, in theory like I knew that people had tried to put effects in guitars like that before, but when I played his guitar, I was like, man, this is a really nice effect, and
yeah,
it sounded good and it fit the guitar, and I was like, this is something really special.
yeah. It came out really good, uh, and that's really uh, thanks to Ko on that. Because he's the one who brought the idea to Kevin, and then
Hmm.
me and Kevin had a little Skype call one day, and we're talking about it, and we decided, hey, well, I'll just start building some stuff for Ko. Send it down there like in a pedal, build it in pedal form, and he can play with it and see what he thinks. And we were thinking like doing like a fuzz face kind of thing. And at one point, then I was like, hey, you know what? I really think that the left side of the Pelotar would fit the bill that you're describing me. The sound that he wanted.
Hmm.
Uh, and so I just put it on Vero board or something. The worst pedal that's ever been built, I sent to him. That was the prototype of it. I'm surprised it still works because it's just a garbage pile inside of parts. But anyways, once I put that in the box and started playing it here before I sent it to him, I was like, whoa, this is cooler than I thought it was.
Hmm.
Which is basically a half horse, basically what the half horse is now.
Yeah.
And I sent it down to him, and he really dug it, but said, "Oh, I'd like it. I want it to sound a little smoother, And so, oh, okay, I got you." He sent it back up, and I tweaked the EQ on it, sent it back down, and yeah, then he signed off on it, and yeah, made up some PCBs and sent them to Kevin. Yeah, and that guitar sounds amazing.
Yeah, it really is a cool guitar, and there was talk of, I remember when I talked to Kevin about it, there was talk of like coming out with three colors, I think, if I
Hmm.
remember correct, that he was gonna do, and one was gonna be like that Pelotar like gold.
Yeah, that's the one that he has built. That's the one you played.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the gold one. It's called Take My Money Gold. I
Yes.
think that
Yes.
one's.
Yes.
And then we have Mostly Blue, uh, which Ko is going to be rocking one of those. And the one he's building for me is going to be Mostly Glue, and that's it's just all white.
Yeah.
Uh, and those are going to be the three colors. Yeah.
Yeah. That was a really rad guitar, and I enjoyed playing it more than I thought it was, and then the not too long after I played that guitar is when I found out that, oh, this is like you releasing that as an actual pedal, the half horse.
Yeah, yeah. Which I probably wouldn't have if it wasn't for Ko, wanting to do this
Yeah.
guitar project. And when I built that prototype for him, I went, "Hey guys, you wouldn't mind if I just if this was a product, would you? Because this thing is pretty awesome."
Yeah.
Uh,
So what has been like the best seller so far? Has it been the Pelotar? Has it been the half horse?
oh yeah, Pelotar for sure.
Okay.
Yeah, it took off way more than I thought it should. Uh, but yeah, people liked it, and I still think it's kind of neat.
Yeah. So you're still working a full-time job, correct?
Oh yeah.
And so this is like you come home at night and spend a few hours
Mm-hmm.
on
Yeah.
that. So kind of how many man hours is that taking like per week, you think, to keep up with that venture?
It At times it can take quite a bit. Um, maybe maybe three hours or so a night, maybe.
Mhm.
That usually would take a few days off a week, a few nights off a week
Yeah.
where I wouldn't work on it. But this summer I've been kind of slowing down, uh, just spending some more time with the family and
Yeah,
not
completely
not
understand.
as much. When orders come in, I ship them out next day, but or the same day. But other than that, I just I've been keeping it kind of calm this summer, just so I can breathe and enjoy the summer and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Do you have it where like when somebody makes an order, is it like there's the parts laying around where you just can quickly kind of throw it together?
Yeah, I try to have a pile of PCBs, populated and ready to go, to where an order comes in, I'll uh, yeah, just wire it up, put it in the enclosure, and
Yeah.
you know test it out and all that stuff, and maybe write a personalized, really dumb message inside or something.
Now, do you do like the drilling on your enclosures, or do you have that done like outside, or?
I have all of that done for me now.
Okay.
Uh, when I started, uh, like when I was first releasing the pedal, I think I built like a run of 25 first. And it's getting into this stuff. It's actually, well, how do I say this? It's not as much as other businesses, startup cost wise, but just for, hey, I'm gonna start building a pedal and I'm gonna make a run of them and sell them. It does cost quite a bit of money to, up front to make that happen.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so I kind of budgeted it out. I sold a couple pieces of gear from the studio. I think I sold two API EQs. And then I worked out a budget, and just selling those two pieces of gear was able to fund it all. But I had to do all the enclosure, powder coating, and drilling myself. And I took them to a local screen print shop to get them printed. But yeah, I was powder coating enclosures. Probably the first 80 enclosures, probably. I powder coated in a Black& Decker toaster oven in my garage.
That's awesome.
Not really.
Yeah, probably was not a fun process.
No, because I could only fit one enclosure in there at a time.
Well, I can feel that. I think I can relate a little bit. I tried to do like I took on a project one time where I was gonna try to make like a 5F1 like champ copy,
Oh yeah.
and out of like another chassis that came out of like an organ,
Uh-huh.
and I was trying to drill my holes to go down in that chassis, and I got a step bit, and I
Hmm.
was trying to freehand that with like a drill. Oh
Oh
my
yeah.
gosh, like
That could go south real quick.
yes, I was like, no, I need a drill press to do this.
Yep.
And it's like I'm not investing in a drill press to make this one project. If that was something I was gonna do a bunch of, maybe, but and
Right.
so I mean, there's a lot of things like that are out there that just kind of are hurdles.
Yep. Yeah, and then after a while, I realized that it was taking up way too much of my time to be out there, drilling. And I would actually, I'm kind of when I'm doing something myself, I want it to be like as nice as possible.
Hmm.
So I was sanding every enclosure down with sanders and hand sanding and trying to get them as smooth and flat as possible before I'd even powder coat them, which nobody does that.
Yeah.
And I quickly realized that this is way too much. I'm spending way too many hours doing this, and so I started, having Mammoth do all that stuff for me now.
Oh, awesome. Around now, uh, you come out with this 50/50
Yeah.
pedal, which is a really cool concept. It kind of, to me, it kind of borrows from uh, the the Pelotar concept of having the two pedals in one thing. Um, but this was kind of, now correct me if I'm wrong. This was like Ryan, his favorite um, drive circuit,
Hmm.
and basically it was, we're gonna take and make two of them, and they're gonna complement each other and sound really, really good together, and it became like the 60 cycle hum, like um, kind of featured pedal.
Yeah. Yeah. Really, it started on the 60 Cycle Hunt podcast. Ryan talked about how he wanted a pedal that had two DoD 250s in it, that you could stack. Like the Earthquaker Devices Gray Channel has two circuits in there, but you can't stack them.
Okay.
And he said, well, my dream is to have both of them in there at the same time, that you can stack them and everything. And he yeah, he said, well, I don't know if I'll build it myself or have someone build it for me, but yeah, I got to have one of those someday. And then I emailed him, was like, hey man, uh, that would be super cool. I'm interested in that too. I want one. Like let's do it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I guess he had a few other builders contact him about it as well. And then he ended up getting back to me and saying, "Hey, now let's do it." And so I asked him, exactly what he wanted, and he did all the artwork and stuff uh, first, and then sent that to me. Then I designed the PCB around that, just so all the knobs and everything matched up
Oh, okay.
exactly how he wanted it to look. Yeah, and it turned out great.
So doing something like that versus like coming up with the Pelotar or the half horse, was that did it take longer or less time?
Oh yeah, a lot less time when you're because that's just DoD 250 it's a really simple circuit. There's not much there,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm just taking that schematic and you know put it on a breadboard and just like, okay, yep, that sounds pretty good. Well, I want to tweak this a little bit just to make it sound a little bit better, but it's basically a lot less involved than obviously coming up with your own stuff. Or
Right. It's a proven circuit.
yeah, there wasn't really any problem solving that had to be done. Really, it was just kind of, well, I'll just build two of these circuits right on the same PCB and rock and roll.
That's awesome. Yeah.
But they are a little bit different, each of them. Just because I can't leave things alone. I have to tweak it just a little bit just to make it sound how I like things to sound.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was thinking, one of my most favorite like delays I've ever played was a DoD I picked up at a pawn shop. I think it was like the FX91.
Is that the one that has the little tape reels on it, on the graphics on it?
I can't remember. It was a blue pedal though,
Blue.
and actually I have on my YouTube I have a video of it like from 2 or 3 years ago when I was kind of messing around with it,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a very unassuming pedal, but like it has a great sound, and the only thing that I missed that it didn't have was like a tap tempo. And I don't know the practicality of it, but I think it would be awesome if somebody took that same pedal and maybe it's got a chip in it that is unavailable. I don't know. But like it was one of the warmest sounding delays and just good sounding. And like somebody took that and like just modernized it with like a like tap tempo or something.
Mm-hmm.
Or even like in a double thing, like where there was like a double uh like dual delay thing with that same thing going on. And it had like it was called the FX91, I think, sampler, delay sampler. And like it had this like really, really short, like it could take like, I want to say like half a second or a second and like record it. And like, so you could like get this really like weird, like warped out of control sound and then like loop it so you could like generate noise. It was crazy. And to think like, probably something in the late 80s or 90s like could do something
Mm-hmm.
like that. That was actually pretty far ahead of its time, I think.
Yeah, a lot of those DoD pedals back then were really cool.
Yeah.
Some of them weren't, but a lot of them were really
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah, I mean it's one of those things too, like you don't run across a lot of them in my area at least. um
Oh,
but yeah, I would, man, if I saw another one like that I would snatch it up in a heartbeat.
yeah. Yeah, I played one of those. It was the DoD FX something. I don't remember what the numbers were after
Hmm.
it.
Yeah, my first pedal that I owned, this is crazy, but like I went to Guitar Center for my birthday, like I think it was like my 15th birthday or something. And I was dead set on I was going to take my birthday money, I was going to go out and get a pedal. And I tried out, this is back then when like they would have like the DoD like pedal board, and like it would have like their whole lineup like lined out, right there on the
Okay.
board. Kind of like Boss would do the same thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And for some reason, like I picked the DoD phaser. It was a stereo phaser, and I don't know why that was the one I picked, because that was probably not the best like choice. If you're gonna get one pedal, and that was the only pedal I owned like until I was probably in college.
Oh, nice.
But I had like that, and then I stopped using it when I got like I had a Digitech like one of those like multi effects units that I used for a long time. But that phaser, I had it up to until about, I guess, a year or so ago, and it really sounded good. I was like kind of surprised, like that they made good stuff back then.
Oh yeah, yeah, absolutely.
But I don't know why I got off on that. But like it was talking about the 50/50, like having the DoD 250 was just a really good circuit.
Yeah, yeah, and the circuit has a couple problems. Like if when you turn the gain down really low, a lot of the treble goes down with it, and so
Okay.
it gets really dark when you do that. And then if you turn the gain up high, uh, past like 3 o'clock or so, it starts to get really shrill, like a lot of high end, really bright. Uh,
Yeah.
and so we had that idea to, put some. I think it was Ryan's idea actually to do that, to put some toggle switches in there to counteract that, to kind of just fix those problems and make it more usable across the whole range.
Okay. So like, what kind of changes in a circuit do you have to make? Like different capacitor values, or?
Yeah, in this case, it was just taking capacitors in and out. Uh, yeah,
So you
yeah,
just plugging in different values and seeing which one was hit the sweet spot.
yeah, yep, yep. Just a little trial and error, and taking different values and plugging them in there, and sitting here playing, and then A B, between different choices, and eventually just land on something. And
Yeah,
uh, I got lucky, sent it down to Ryan, and he liked it first try, so I didn't have to make any revisions.
that's awesome. That's awesome. So when you're breadboarding like that, do you have like a big old huge breadboard that you can just kind of jumper around?
Yeah. I mean, I don't have that big of a breadboard, but yeah, I'll just kind of throw the circuit on there, and it always looks sloppy.
Mm-hmm.
Wires going everywhere, and just resistors and capacitors just laying all over the desk, and yeah, just plugging different things in, and just kind of using my ears rather than trying to calculate what would be the best values. Just listening to it and seeing how it sounds.
Yeah. So when you actually put your like when you're producing these to send out to customers, are you're building these all by hand still?
Yeah, yeah. Still doing everything by hand. There's, I'm not above, or I don't look down on surface mount components on boards or anything. Which one day I have some ideas that are going to require that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think those components are so good that in a lot of cases better than the old through hole stuff. I don't think it makes a sound difference. One of these days I may move that direction on certain things, but
Yeah. Yeah, it seems like you would have to have like certain tools available to do it that way.
oh yeah, yeah, and a lot of people that do it that way, they have a factory populate their boards for them. But there are some guys, I've talked to some guys, they do it all by hand with a magnifying glass and a set of tweezers, and it's pretty intense.
Yeah, that's a lot of pressure though. Like when you get into like some of these parts that man, you can fry it in an instant,
Oh yeah.
and then you gotta oh man, I just fried this. I gotta turn around and get another one.
Yeah. And another point is that we might be seeing a lot more surface mount stuff, in the next few years. So a lot of the old transistors are getting the stock of them are getting blown through, and there's not much left out there on a lot of JFETs in particular. A lot of those are getting hard to find. I had to search pretty hard for my last batch that I got, and the quality of the ones that I've been getting have been kind of going down. A lot of parts that are or I'll test the part before I put it in, and nope, throw away a handful of them, and then this one's good, we'll use that.
Yeah. I can imagine it's almost like do you go out and you place a bulk order and get all of the ones you can, so you can keep running for years on end with it, or do you just accept the technology the way it's going and retool a little bit?
Right. Right now, I think most people are, when they come into a good stash of them, they'll buy as many as they can.
Yeah. Yeah.
But there's the other surface mount versions of those, transistors and FETs that will, sound exactly the same.
So where do you go to how do you source out your parts?
Oh, that's a tough one, because it usually there's not a one-stop shop for stuff, even though there's been companies that try to do that. Mammoth and Small Bear, they try to do that as much as they can, kind of provide everything, one-stop shopping kind of situation.
Right.
But yeah, it ends up you have to do a lot of price shopping, and you might buy a handful of things at Mauser, or you might, and then some things like various knobs and parts like that, you might be ordering direct from China. Kind of, yeah, you end up kind of ordering stuff from all over the place, and It's kind of a lot of work to keep parts on hand.
Yeah, I imagine even just staying on top of who's got the best price, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, and then you got to shoot things out for quality too.
Yeah.
That's a whole nother game.
Yeah. So, you just try to keep it like a good kind of stock and all that stuff, I imagine.
Yeah. Yeah, that's I I think that's one of my hobbies is keeping all the parts drawers full.
Yeah.
At least lately anyway.
Yeah. Well, I can imagine that to me. I really admire that you're doing that because I would be so far down in like a rabbit hole. Um, uh, trying to source this part of that and I think I would like never get anything built. That would be my problem.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's definitely that can happen.
Yeah.
But if I didn't like the end product, and the process of doing it as much as I do, I definitely wouldn't be doing it. Not worth my time.
Right. Right.
Yeah, if it was just for trying to make some money or for different reasons other than the love of a good sound,
Yeah.
then it wouldn't be worth it. Not for me anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. So, are there anything like outside of the drive or distortions that you have an interest in kind of tinkering with?
Oh yeah, yeah. I'm kind of obsessed with delays,
Okay.
and I've messed around with some delays and got some pretty weird sounding things. And I made one circuit that all it did was it just made like NES like Excite Bike motorcycle sounds. That's all it did.
Oh, awesome.
It wasn't worth pursuing, but it was pretty cool.
So what do you what kind of circuits are you like that you like to fool around with in the delay realm?
um, I like playing around with the if you're familiar with the PT2399 chip. It's a digital chip,
Okay.
but it's kind of packaged in a little chip that you can design analog circuitry around it, and it acts like an analog chip.
Okay.
And that's what a lot of delays out there that you end up running across have that chip in there. Digital delays anyway.
Is that pre-programmed or do you have to program it?
Yeah, that one there's no programming involved in that one. It's just what it is what it is, and you can add filters and stuff to it. But something else I've been playing with a little bit of DSP
Okay.
lately, which is hard. But you can get weird if you want to get weird. That's where you got to go.
So is that like you have to like set up a software and
Yeah.
just kind of mess around?
Yeah, that's when you're writing what they call machine code.
Okay.
And it's kind of I don't know hardly anything about it, but I know enough to get weird.
Yeah.
And so I've been having fun playing with that, just on my own here. No one else has heard it, but
Yeah. Well, what is that? How does that entail? Like, what piece of hardware does it take to take that chip and actually program it?
yeah. Well, what I was doing is there's a company called Spin that makes a chip called the FB1,
Mm-hmm.
and it actually is a surface mount chip. Let's see, looking at one right now. Yeah, there's like I can't remember, like 26 pins on it or something. But it's set up to where it has a lot of capabilities, and it has a lot of limitations too. But there's a little development kit you can get. It's a little board that already has that chip on there, and you just plug your guitar into it and out of it into your amp basically, and then you hook that up to the computer, and you can start playing with code and kind of seeing what does what. And yeah, it's a lot of fun. If anybody's ever interested in that kind of thing, just making wacky digital stuff, it's I recommend it. It's super fun, but not it's not really. Mm, you got to be willing to do a lot of head scratching and try to figure out how code works, which I know nothing about.
Yeah.
Trying to.
Yeah, that's that. Man, I tried to take some code classes in college and I absolutely hated it. Like, it's just not up my alley. And it was,
It's fun when it works. When you do something and it works, it's
yeah,
pretty.
yeah. But
Yeah, just the code that I had to make for my pedals for just the relay bypass on my pedals. I spent months, like 6 months on that,
oh
like way
wow,
too long. It's not that much code, um, just to make it work reliably and how I expected it to work. It took a ton of work to make that happen. I thought it was going to be easy, but it wasn't.
yeah, yeah. You'd think that, and this would be awesome if the industry could see this, and maybe it is out there already. But like, if there was a code that it's kind of like it had an interface where you could just template, kind of like with websites when you're trying to build
Hmm.
websites. It was
Right.
template based where you could just, okay, this is the parameters. This hones in where exactly where I want to do the edits, and I have these selections, and I tell it to do this, and it writes the code on its own.
Right. And there's actually for that spin chip that I was talking about, there is a program that a third party made for it. It's a graphical interface where you can kind of drag and drop different
Okay.
blocks and then connect them with wires so you can get signal flow and things. And it's a pretty easy way to get in there and start messing with stuff, but it's has a lot of limitations to it, and it's
Yeah.
not a perfect situation, but it's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
But as far as like writing like programming microcontrollers and stuff, I don't know. I mean, Arduino is probably the easiest for that kind of stuff, but it still takes a lot of research into. I don't know why I'm going on a tangent about coding right now. I don't know
I
anything about
I don't
it.
know. It definitely is a fascinating thing because you hear like these different guys who mess with that and DSP and stuff. On I think like I've heard it on Brian Wampler's podcast and maybe Blake's too. Talk about that kind of stuff, and it intrigues me because I feel like that technology, it's like it's out there, but like to have the formal knowledge to like do, it's kind of, there's some limitations there. And if somebody came along with a great graphical interface, a
Right.
GUI that could make it accessible to guys who are passionate about messing with tone and can build, but it doesn't take having to learn how to code. You know,
Right.
that would
That
just
would
be
that would
amazing.
that would be super fun.
I think that if there was like a company that came along, that offered like a third party um, that could do that, come up with that, and put it in the hands of all the boutique builders, that would be like just one of the most amazing things, and they could license it and put it out there for everybody.
Yeah, that does sound like it would be pretty cool.
But
Definitely utilize something like that.
yeah, that'd be amazing. But so you like playing with the delays? Do you think maybe there might be a Pelican delay pedal one day?
It would be pretty cool, but I can't promise that. Uh, but I have some ideas. I've been kicking around some ideas and trying to figure out how they would work for a while for something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Some kind of delay, but there's so many delays out there that I'm not going to make something if it's if it's just a delay and there's another pedal that does that. There's no reason for me to make it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's kind of, well, I think it would have to fit your mantra for like what you've done with your other pedals already. Like the whole idea of kind of how you attacked it from the angle of the Pelotar and then the half horse, and it's got to have that kind of angle to it. I would imagine.
Yeah, well, it's definitely, yeah, it's probably, well, guaranteed it would have a silly name.
Yeah.
Yeah, I try to not make things serious, and I definitely don't take myself seriously.
But I think that's what people love about your company, though, is just that whole angle that you've taken with your line. You know, it's just resonated with certain folks.
Well, thanks.
Yeah. So I can't wait to see what you do next, man. I mean, I think that people are eager and just, you know, they know that whatever you wanted that you'll pursue, that it'd be something really cool.
Yeah, I would hope so. I've had a couple things that I've worked on and kind of thrown aside because it wasn't that cool.
Yeah. That's the thing about good ideas, I guess, is you just never know when you're gonna strike gold or not. You know.
Yep. Yeah, but yeah, if you're not trying, then you're not gonna stumble upon a good idea if you're not trying.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
But yeah, that's kind of my whole thing, though, is that I don't, at least that's the way I try to approach it, is that I don't want to put something out just to put something out, you know, like a Me Too pedal, you know. If there's something out there that does the same thing, then there's not really a reason, a reason to make it.
Yeah. Well, I talked to Daniel Shields of DS Guitar Engineering, and that was kind of like the thing with him was, you know, he came out with the chronograph. Nobody is doing this.
Yeah. And that was a great idea.
Yeah, I was like, you know, you're not competing with anybody when you're doing that.
Mm-hmm.
And people are, you know, there's people that's gonna want that, and so I think that's brilliant. You know, to find the things that nobody else is doing, and do it. You know, do it well, and
yeah, especially if it's a, you know, like as simple of an idea as that, as a clock. I know it wasn't simple to program all that, but just, you know, a pedal board clock, you know, that's a simple idea, but no one's done it. You know.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, so do you think I could just imagine, like, you get the studio, like, it'd be really cool to, you know, make your own mic pre's and build all the gear that you can't, you know, people can't afford, and kind of, you know,
exactly.
That could be fun too.
Yeah, that's why. I mean, that's one of the reasons I started doing this too. I was when I was putting together the studio, I was doing a lot of soldering patch bays because I was, you know, so into analog gear that, you know, you need patch bays if you're going to use analog gear. And you get these little patch bays that have they're not 1/4 inch. They call them TT cables. It's a little bit bigger than like an 1/8 inch cable. I don't know what the measurement is, but
okay.
So there's like 96 patch points on one patch bay, and on the back just a whole bunch of, you know, there's 5 solder connections for each one on the back. You know, so there's just thousands of solder connections, and I wired up my studio with 3-4 patch bays. Got mine done, and then one of my friends was building a studio, and his was even bigger than mine. Hey, you want to wire mine up? Ooh, okay. And then as I started wiring studios, and so soldering was already that's a skill set that I worked at and became fairly natural. And so, yeah, when it came to building pedals, it was in a lot of ways easier than wiring studios.
Yeah, Yeah, imagine that, man. That just boggles my mind. That kind of makes me think of like if you ever take like a tube organ, you take the back panel off and you look and you see
Oh yeah.
like the massive amount of soldering that they did by hand.
Oh yeah, those old organs are nuts.
It's just it boggles the mind that it's like I know that those things were insanely expensive back in the day and they're not worth anything now, but
Yep.
they there's some massive amount of man hours put into building
Oh
like one unit.
yeah. I've I've taken one apart at like about it was a solid state organ
Hmm.
uh, years ago, uh, but it had a Leslie speaker in it, and I tore the whole organ apart. Got the Leslie speaker out of it, and then I used the wood of the organ to make a cabinet for the Leslie speaker.
That's awesome. Yeah.
uh, and so I have that here, but I had to pull that whole thing apart, and there was so many circuit boards in there and just crazy wiring. I was yeah, like you said, it was just mind-boggling.
Yeah, but I know those things came at a premium back in the 60s and 70s when they were big.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
recently I bought a couple cheap mics, uh, cheap condenser mics, um, to gut them and use the bodies as just like I basically bought them as donor mics just to use
Yeah.
the houses, and I'm gonna make a couple U47 clones. Never done that before, so that'll be a fun
I
project.
was when we were talking about studio gear, I was gonna bring that up. Like, I've always I've seen those kits out there, and I've wanted to do one, but just never have. Um, but like, yeah, making like a Neumann like U47 or was it the
Yeah,
U87? I think.
U87. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's the big one there.
and that is so intriguing. Now, did you pick up like uh, MXL or something like that?
Yeah, that's exactly what it was. Yeah, there was
Yeah.
a deal a couple, I don't know, a month ago or so. Some random deal on Reverb. I'm like, oh, well, I'll pick up a pair of those, and I haven't got started on it yet. I've bought the capsules that I'm going to put in there from. Well, you're probably familiar with microphone parts.
Yeah. Yeah, I've been to that website.
Yeah, because yeah, like you, I bet I've always wanted to do that too, and I've never pulled the trigger. Uh, so I think I'm going to.
Yeah, I bet I've heard the like samples and like even when they change out the capsules, like it immediately sounds, just so much better.
Oh yeah, yeah. So I'm not sure yet if I'm going to do like just a kit for the circuitry in the mic, or if I'm going to design my own PCB for it. I don't haven't gotten that far with it yet.
Yeah. Yeah. There's so many of those like old mics like that are kind of just out of reach. To get like a
Oh
real one, it's just out of reach for most
oh yeah,
people.
yeah. There's one of my friends has a studio, and he recently sold a bunch of gear to get a Neumann U87. So I've got to play with that a little bit, and those are just amazing mics. They're really good.
Yeah, I know one of the things in them is it's that seems appealing is the circuitry that they put in it. Um, it's like it's EQ'd to where like if you have a good mic pre or whatever, you can just kind of not have to do a lot of things in
Yeah.
post. You're
Hmm.
capturing it at the source, just like
Yep.
just pure.
Hmm. Yeah. If you can get it just the way you want it at the source, then you're good.
Yeah, yeah. So that's always intrigued me, and I know there's probably some other ones besides the Neumanns that you know have like a vintage following, but that seems to be the most popular is that U87 and the U47.
Yeah. And if you're a few years ago, I got my dream mic, which was a Royer R121. Uh, and that just changed. That was a game changer for me for like recording guitars.
Was that a
Uh,
ribbon? Is that a ribbon?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, it's a ribbon mic, and it's not vintage. I think they started making them in the '90s, but they became a a studio classic. And I've always kind of wanted to play with them. I'm like, yeah, I always hear these things about Royers and ribbon mics. Like, they sound good on guitar cabinets. That's it. That seems weird. And I finally got one. Like, oh, yep, I know what they're talking about. These these ribbon mics are amazing.
Yeah, I haven't messed with those too much. I've kind of been curious about them, but those are kind of like they're not uh, they're not powered mics most of the time.
No, no. There's some active ribbon mics out there, but not very many.
So you gotta have a pretty beefy preamp to kind of goose
Yeah,
those up, huh?
yeah, yeah. You got to have a lot of like clean headroom on a preamp. If you're a lot of times with those ribbon mics, if you're using a cheap preamp on a quieter source, like if you were acoustic guitars or something that was a little quieter, you often get a lot of noise from your mic pre because you got to goose it so much.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Wow, this conversation took a turn.
I know, man. I know one person who's like gonna immensely enjoy this conversation, and then I'm probably gonna lose everybody else. But Co Schneider is probably all about this.
Oh yeah, Co's all about it.
Yeah.
And if he's not, he can deal with it.
Yeah, he's in the process of building his own
Yeah.
studio right now too.
Yeah. Yeah, it's looking pretty good.
Yeah.
Last I saw.
Yeah, I can't wait to see what the end result on that. So big shout out to Co.
Go Schneider.
Well, man, I've had a blast just shooting the breeze with you and talking about Pelican Noiseworks, but also just the recording thing. That's been fun.
Yeah, I haven't geeked out about recording gear in a long time.
I don't even realize how much I like all that stuff until I find like get talking about it with somebody, and then I'm like, it's buried deep down in there somewhere.
Yeah.
It just comes out.
Yeah, it's a good thing.
Yeah. Well, thanks so much, man. It's been fun hanging out, and
Yeah, thank you.
yeah. Well, I know that Co's gonna immensely enjoy this, and hope everybody else enjoys it as well.
Yeah, I apologize for everybody that made it this far. There's a reason I don't do podcasts very often.
Yeah, man. Well, it's been fun, man.
Yeah, I appreciate it.